Alright, welcome to the Sports News Insider College Football Blog. I'm your man Akeem McCall, recapping Week 6 of the college football season. Now, it was a slaughterhouse for some of the top 10 teams of their key matchups this week, starting with Oregon romping California 43-15. LaMichael James rushed for 239 yards and a touchdown, but suffered a gruesome elbow injury in the fourth quarter. Now, he'll be out indefinitely, but I don't think the Ducks should worry too much because they have great backups in Kenyon Barner, Josh Huff, and true freshman DeAnthony Thomas. I don't think the Oregon Ducks should worry too much at the running back position. They'll be just fine for the next couple of weeks. Now, LSU, they owned Florida 41-11. Now, I have to make a quick correction. Jacoby Brissett was the starting quarterback for Florida and not Jeff Driscoll, the true freshman. Driscoll was not able to play due to an ankle injury, so he was out for this one, and Brissett had to start in this matchup. Now, one thing I noticed about this game was the LSU offense. I think a lot of people underestimate them with Jerry Lee and company. They play smash mouth football and they can generate points. I see why the number one team in the nation. They have a good solid offense and a spectacular defense. Now, speaking of defense, number 2 Alabama, they blanked Vanderbilt 34-0. Now, a lot of people are comparing LSU and Alabama's defense and the number 3 team in Oklahoma, which is sad for me to say that they crushed Texas 55-17. But one thing, the reason why Texas ended up losing that game was because of all the turnovers. For the first 4 games, they had a +6 margin in the turnovers, but for this matchup, they had a -4, and that was the difference maker in this game. And they just ended up just getting crushed by Oklahoma. At Texas, for the first 4 games, they averaged just under 15 points per game, but in this matchup, 55 points? Are you kidding me? 55? Okay, I'm going to speak up. 55 points, that's a lot against a good Texas Longhorn defense team. But Oklahoma, they're actually making a good argument and getting back to number 1. Now, a lot of people are arguing who has the best defense, Oklahoma, Alabama, or LSU. I really think Alabama has the best defense, but LSU has the scariest defense. The reason why is because a lot of people were concerned about the replacement at linebacker and cornerback Patrick Peterson. Kelvin Shepherd and Patrick Peterson are now in the NFL, and a lot of people thought that the LSU defense were not going to be as good. But their linemen, Benny Logan and Michael Brocker, as well as Tyrann Mathieu, the star on cornerback, they have a great solid defense who can compete against Alabama. I think they have the scariest defense because they have a lot of no names compared to Alabama with a lot of the sexy names like John Lester, Mark Barron, Tim Hightower, Upchurch. They have a loaded defense. Drake Kirkpatrick, need I say more? They just have more names, big names on defense than LSU, but LSU just have no names who could play just as good as Alabama. So I have to say LSU is the scariest, but Alabama is the best statistically. Now, a couple of other great matchups this week. Missouri was my upset pick of the week over Kansas State, but Kansas State ended up prevailing 24-17 due to the efforts of quarterback Colin Clean. He's playing solidly. He's being a true leader for this team. And I do like Bill Snyder's Wildcat team. They are disciplined, and they play in-your-face football, and they do deserve that 17th ranked team in the nation, undefeated, heading into more Big 12 matchups. And I'm definitely going to keep an eye out on the Wildcats. Now, they play Texas Tech next week, who almost ended up beating Texas A&M. Texas A&M almost collapsed again this week, but they ended up holding off Texas Tech to a 45-40 victory. Aggies ended up almost messing up. They ended up pulling it off in the fourth quarter, so that was a great matchup. Now, Clemson, I had mentioned Clemson's matchup against Boston College. Clemson ended up beating them 36-14, but it was a little bit of a scare for quarterback Taj Boyd, who suffered an hip injury, which was a bonehead move because he did not have his hip pads on his sides, and that's very important, especially at the quarterback position. Now, he is probable next week against Maryland, but I think he'll be just fine. I think Clemson is still going to win with or without them or against Maryland, but I'll give you more further detail on Wednesday. But I think Taj Boyd will just be just fine later on in the season. Auburn, I ended up having Auburn over Arkansas, but Arkansas ended up surprising me, crushing Auburn 38-14 due to a brilliant performance offensively. Now, one thing I noticed, the best play of the game was that 92-yard run from Joe Thomas when he hurdled over a defender. It was a great one. He ended up stopping at the end zone. A little bit of a taunt, but not too much of a taunt. I didn't think that was a big deal, but it was a great one. Coach Mark Richt of Georgia, he made a little bit of a history for himself, a good milestone with his 100th career victory with a win over Tennessee 20-12. Tyler Bray had suffered a broken thumb and he was out for the game. He'll be out for the next 6 weeks at most, and that's a tough injury, tough break for Tennessee, and a great accomplishment for Mark Richt. Georgia Tech, they ended up hosting Maryland last week, and it was a scare. They ended up winning 21-16. Maryland ended up coming back a little bit in the fourth quarter with the 13-point in the fourth quarter. It was a little bit of a scare, but Georgia Tech ended up pulling off the 5-point victory. Now, one team who did ended up coming back and had one of their biggest comeback in school history was the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who was down 21 at the half against the Ohio State Buckeyes, led by quarterback Taylor Martinez, who ran for a score and threw 2 touchdown passes. He finally did something with his arm this season, and it was a big win for Nebraska, a good comeback with Rex Burkhead having the go-ahead touchdown on run in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left. And then the thing that changed up that game-changer play, was when Levante David, their star middle linebacker for Nebraska, stripped the ball from Braxton Miller, and that ended up rallying Nebraska back into the game and coming up with a 34-27 victory. Now, the biggest game of the week was the Virginia Tech-Miami game, in which both teams combined for 1,001 yards of total offense. It was a great game, with Logan Thomas had a spectacular performance. 23 for 25, 315 yards and 3 touchdown passes, and scored the winning touchdown run at the end of the game, in which Virginia Tech won 38-35. It was a spectacular matchup. Now, one game that everybody was shocked, the real upset pick of the week, was the Florida State Seminoles against Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Wake Forest ended up beating them 45-40. Florida State was just looking pathetic, pitiful. They couldn't get anything going on the defensive side. I was a little bit shocked because they are loaded on defense, but they played terrible. A lot of people had high hopes for Florida State this season, especially coming off with a 10-win season under new coach Fisher last year. They had 10 wins last season, and everybody thought they were at least going to be the ACC champions and maybe get to a national championship this season, but they ended up proving everybody wrong, and they are now rebuilding. They are actually 0-2 in the ACC. Wake Forest is 3-0 in the ACC, so everybody needs to look out for the Demon Deacons. And it was just a terrible performance and a terrible effort from the nose, and I'm shocked about this team. Now, the next time I'm going to catch you guys is on Wednesday to give you my Week 7 selections, my key matchups, as well as my predictions. Thank you for watching today's vlog from Sports News Insider. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.